Hannen Alt.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I've got one here for today from Germany. It is the Hannen Altbier. And after just trying the Harvey's Dark Mild, I was really disappointed in that. That did not taste of anything. So I thought, what can I drink now? That went down the sink, by the way. There was absolutely no point in me drinking it whatsoever because it didn't taste of anything. So what I've done is I've got this out of the fridge. This is the Hannen Altbier, and this is a bit of a tale of woe on this bottle, or on this beer actually, because Hannen were taken over by Carlsberg in 1988. They went from being one of the biggest alt brewers in the western part of Germany, because that's where Altbier comes from, and they went from that to being taken over by Carlsberg because they got into financial troubles, and now their beer is not brewed in their brewery. It's brewed by a company called Oettinger, and I've reviewed some of their lager actually. I didn't really think much of it at all, to be honest. It's quite a cheap lager, and they're brewing this now as well, so I don't know whether I've got high hopes for this or not, but it's being brewed by a contract brewer, if you like. Now, of course, Altbier is unique to the western part of Germany, the Dusseldorf region, Dortmund, around there, and it's sort of unique there. It's not brewed in any other region in Germany, and it's becoming popular all over Germany, but it never used to be like that. It only used to be drunk in the sort of western part, near the border with Holland or the Netherlands. And this company, when they were, before they was independent, in 1968, the owner, his name was Gunther Dicker. Yeah, unfortunate name. But he decided to print his own money, or print his own bills, if you like, and he would pay some of the workers there in these bills, and this would be what they could exchange for beer. And the reasoning behind it was so as their wives didn't know how much money they were spending on beer. I mean, it's quite a novel idea. And the Bundesbank, which is the national bank of Germany, got wind of it and said, if you carry on doing this, printing your own money, not only will we fine you 100,000 Deutschmarks, we will send you to prison. So he had to stop. But yeah, and he got round it by writing them out cheques. But I just thought that was a brilliant idea, because he didn't want the workers' wives to know how much they were spending on beer. Fucking brilliant. But that is not unusual. I'm going way off topic here, but in the 1800s in the United States, mine workers were paid in money that could only be exchanged in the mine workers' shop. So they were effectively slaves. Now, they got round that by paying them this money, this bogus money that couldn't be used anywhere else outside of this mine. And you'd pay for your food and your drink and your clothes all in this company store. And there's a song, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like something I sold my soul to the company store, and it's all about that. But that was what they were doing in 18th century America. All the money that was being paid to these coal miners was just money that could be spent in the stores that the actual companies had. So you were basically tied to them for life. There was no way you could save. You couldn't get out. The only commodities you could buy was with the money that they gave you. It's fucking horrendous. They stopped it now. But the only reason I'm bringing that up is because old matey tried that with his beer, Oh, Gunter Dicker. Mr. Dicker. Fucking hell, what a name. Anyway, more on that later. Let's get this beer investigated. Hannen Altbier, 500ml bottle. It conforms to the Reinheitsgebot and it is 4.8%. And Altbier, of course, is quite a nice style, very reminiscent of British bitter or British ale, very malt forward, bottom fermented. You could argue that it's very similar to a dark lager, but I think it's got different flavours. The malts are far more interesting, and I quite like it. I've reviewed a few Altbiers on this channel. The best one that springs to mind that I tried was the Bolton Alt. No, Bolton, it's not a British company, obviously it's Bolten. That was a good one. And another company called Schlerscher, which were really good. They did a really good Altbier too. So, with that in mind, let's see how this bears up. Now, you've got to remember this is brewed by or owned by Carlsberg, so I haven't really got high hopes for it. So it can only surprise me. There's the cap. Can you see that? Just got Hannen Alt on the cap. Let's get it into the glass. I'm using a Guinness glass, check me out. Just before I do, there's the label. Very, very simple label. Oh, Mr. Dicker. wonder where that came from. What are we getting on the nose? Oh, lovely. Nice, sweet caramel malt. Do you know what? After trying that dark malt, it didn't smell of anything and it didn't taste of anything. It really fucking scared me. I thought I'd got COVID, because that is one of the symptoms. You lose your sense of smell and you lose your sense of taste. And I started fucking worrying, and I brought it downstairs and I got the missus to smell it and to try it, and she said, yeah, it tastes of nothing. That was her exact words. Yeah, this smells quite nice actually. There is some caramel malt that I'm getting there, but again, the aromas are quite weak. Wonder what this is going to be like. There is in the glass, and as I said, it does look like a British bitter. If somebody handed that to me and said, here's a pint of best bitter, I would not question that. It's a dark amber, almost chestnut, mahogany type colour. Fair bit of carbonation on it. All I'm getting is caramel malt. Right, there's the whole lot in ye olde glass. Let's get it down my fat Gregory Peck. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Not bad. Tasted worse. As I sort of expected, there's big caramel malt on that. That is the first thing that I notice. There's quite a big hop bitterness on this as well. I don't know, there's no brew sheet. I can't tell you what hops are in here. But it does leave a hop bitterness that again is putting me in mind of a best bitter. And as I said this before, Altbier was really popular in the western part of Germany. And of course there was British bases, British Army bases that were there. The Senilager and Munster bases were there as well, and this proved to be quite popular. And you did get quite a lot of, you know, squaddies that didn't like lager. They would be drinking Altbier because that reminded them of the bitter that they would get back home. This isn't a great one, to be honest. I do remember the Bolton Alt being a lot nicer. There's caramel malt there, but there's a bitterness, a dry bitterness on the finish, which isn't particularly unusual because your North German Pilsners are in that sort of vein. They have that bitter, dry finish from the hops that they're using in there, and there's hop extract in this, so I'm assuming that's what's giving this the bitterness that I'm tasting now. The caramel malt, it isn't really that sweet, and I would have expected a little bit more sweetness. Not a great deal, just a little bit, but that's not forthcoming at all. And there is, I don't know whether that's my imagination, but there is a slight metallic taste to it as well, which I don't like at all. That is a touch disappointing for me. To be honest though, I didn't expect much. When I found out that they'd been taken over by Carlsberg and they were being brewed by the Oettinger Brewery, I thought, this really isn't going to be good, because the Oettinger stuff that I tried is a cheap German beer, if you like, and you know, even that didn't taste good, and that's their own label stuff. So this is brewed under contract, and don't get me wrong, it's not the worst beer in the world, but there really isn't much to get me excited on this one at all, to be honest. If you like your bitters, you'd be sort of okay drinking that. It's got a very bitter finish on it, or a more bitter than the other Altbiers that I've tried. Some of the other Altbiers that I've tried have been really good, but the caramel malt has been sweeter. It's not big in that, even though it does smell big, and you can taste it. The hops dominate, the hop bitterness dominates in this. That's a bit disappointing for me. So what's the verdict on Hannen Alt? To be honest, I didn't expect much. Taken over by Carlsberg, brewed under contract by Oettinger. I just thought this was going to be a very, very run-of-the-mill beer, and it is. It's the kindest thing I can say about it is that it's okay, and I can't really give it any more plaudits than that. There's just so many better alt beers out there. The two I named already, Bolton and Schlürzer, are nicer, and you know, there's so many other dark beers out there that taste nicer than that. You know, not even the alt stuff. From that region as well, with Potts Landbier. I mean, that is really nice. That is a really good German Landbier. But this stuff, I don't think much of it at all, to be honest. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, and that's being very generous. And there's really nothing that would make me recommend this over any other of the alt beers that I've just mentioned. So I'm not even going to recommend it. So yeah, unfortunately, Hannen, with your dodgy money, you're getting 5 out of 10, and sadly, I'm not going to recommend it. And remember, I'm drinking this shit, so you don't have to.